Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome to Satsang. Welcome. Welcome to the timeless, unchanging, unborn, undying, welcome to the real. Welcome to this place where you needn't pick up anything. You don't need to get anything. You don't need to understand anything. You simply need to be yourself. Not your personality, but that which is here before that. That which maybe you don't even recognize now, but which recognizes you in some way and has brought you here. Somewhere deep inside yourself, you have touched this place where you are unmoving, and you recognize that everything is just swirling around you. But you are unmoved. This is Satsang, the place where you can encounter the truth of your own nature. This is the place of putting down and shedding what you are not. So when you come to Satsang, as you come here, you are leaving everything else behind. I look around this morning and I noticed that all of us here today have made a commitment to walk away from whatever life we thought we had or we thought we wanted. To come to this place, Arunachala, where we are free to be ourselves. This is very beautiful. So beautiful to see you all. And to know that in some way you have understood already that you are not what you think, not what you experience. You are not the body. You are not the mind. Though sometimes your confrontations with body and mind can trouble you. But your being here this morning indicates that you aren't willing to settle for that. So some of you think you are seeking something, not realizing that that which you are is actually drawing you in. You think it's your effort that will make it possible for you to realize the truth of your own nature as being, consciousness, and bliss. Never suspecting that it is being, consciousness, and bliss which is drawing you in. By the time you come to Tiruvannamalai, by the time you come to the feet of Arunachala, you already have no choice, and the decision has already been made. So I encourage you to continue moment by moment putting everything down. Whatever thoughts, sensations, sounds, emotions come in this space that you are. Though you may notice them, don't pick them up. If you do pick them up with your mind, put them back down again. Do this just by letting go. There's nothing for you to do, no one for you to be. You are going nowhere. And you are here as awareness itself. You know this because you know I am aware. You feel this deeply when you look. When awareness becomes aware that it is aware, it simply rests. In the recognition that there is nowhere to go and nothing to do, and that all is well. This feeling sense for you that all is well, that you are somehow contented in this moment to be here, now, in this place, and doing this, is a guidepost for you. Let yourself settle into this place where you are contented, happy, even if it's just for this 1 hour, just to be here, with nothing to do and nowhere to go. Of course, for many of us, this is very difficult because we are human doings, not human beings. So even to stop for 1 hour or 1 hour and a half can be quite challenging. But by stopping from time to time, we come into the habit, if you will, of stopping more often. Stopping physically, stopping mentally, stopping emotionally, realizing in some way the limit to those faculties that we have of the senses and the mind and the emotions, knowing that there's a limit to what they can provide for us. Everyone who is sitting here now has already come to this limit in some way. Though the mind, through conditioning, through habit, the emotions, through conditioning, through habit, the senses, through conditioning and through habit, may still try to trick us into believing that there is some satisfaction in them and that we will find some happiness there, may draw us back out into the habit patterns and the conditioning of mind, body, and world. But for you now, this will happen only briefly. You have already come to the feet of Arunachala, to the feet of stillness, to the teachings of the great masters and the presence of sages. So for you, in some way, even though the mind is dancing, even though the emotions may be dancing, even though the body may be dancing, there is a stopping that has already occurred. And eventually, the conditioning, the thoughts, the body, the senses will catch up with that stopping. They will slow down and they will begin to come to rest themselves. Your task is simply to let them do that. Not to keep searching through them looking for some answer about how to stop them or how to get rid of your conditioning. This is why I say this is not about doing something, it's about letting go of something, something which you are not. To come into direct recognition of yourself as timeless, unborn, undying. The self alone, the supreme alone. You are that. Your time here can be best put to use by developing the ability to discriminate between what is real and what is unreal. To become in some way dispassionate, non-attached to what is unreal in body, mind, and world. What is unreal is what is changing continuously, moving along, coming and going, rising and falling. What is real is what is unmoving, what is aware of that which is coming and going and of that which is unreal. And recognizing itself to be that which is resting always in the recognition, I am aware. This awareness is here, now. This is the real. Everything else is lila, play. Once you recognize this, you accept this unconditionally, then the lila, the play, of body, mind, and world can go on or stop. Awareness itself is unmoved, resting as happiness, quietly. You are that. That is the nature of all. the foundation on which this great house, this great dance is occurring. Rising, staying for a period of time, and then departing. This body of yours will be the same way. It has risen, it will stay for a while, and then it will depart. So don't count on it. Ask yourself, what does not move? What does not come and go? What is always here? What was here before this body? What will be here after this body? Dissolve into that which you are as awareness, being, consciousness, and bliss. Cling to nothing. So that you can see that all is well. And you are free. So this question was sent. I thought I'd share it with you this morning and talk about it a little. The person first said that there had been some breakthrough for them sometime in the recent past, and that for the first time they really felt like it was possible for them to enter in some way into this process that we call self-inquiry that Bhagavan talked about. But then this came up. The problem so far with self-inquiry has been that the basic question, like, who am I, have left me cold, with the sense that I cannot work with it, and I'm not good at creating new ones that fit either. So I wonder if there's a comprehensive listing of self-inquiry questions that I could refer to. A list of deep questions would be helpful, like, Who is he that has this attachment to objects of perception? So there are really two aspects to this statement that I'd like to talk about. One is what is the necessary way of self-inquiry, and in some way, why use the question, who am I, if I don't feel that I can use it? It doesn't feel suitable to me. It doesn't fit my frame of mind. And the other is sort of what's going on in the background here. What is going on in the mind? So the first one I want to address by saying that this question, who am I, is very intentionally in a very simple form. The intentionality behind it, I think, is always that there's a recognition that complexity of mind, that tendency toward complexity, toward diversity, toward the love of complexity, is actually one of the primary veils or barriers to realizing who am I. And so Sri Ramana was very clear over many years that to keep the question as simple as possible reduces the tendency in the mind to want to go into complexity, into diversity. He recognized that many, many people came to him with a lot of knowledge, mostly book knowledge, knowing a lot of scripture, having explored through all sorts of practices, all in this search for God, or the search for self-realization, or the search for enlightenment, whatever the term was. He realized that many people came with lots of requirements and requisites for what was needed or what was expected along the road to awakening. And it seems to me that he probably purposely kept this question very simple. And when someone came to him and said, I can't do this, I don't understand this, this isn't satisfying to the mind, he would say, it's not a problem. Just remain still then. Or just repeat the question, who am I? What is this I? With faith that eventually whatever resistance is there and whatever tendency there is in the mind to go toward this diversity, this multiplicity, this conceptual knowledge will eventually falter. And what is this I? Who am I? This I will eventually be revealed to be non-existent. So it's important for us to remember that when the mind says, this is too simple for me, that what is happening is that the tendency, the samskara, toward complexity is rising. And though we may not find any satisfaction in asking the question, who or what is aware of this desire for complexity. There may not be much satisfaction in this, but in some way, this is the point. The point is to starve the mind of this tendency, if you will, toward complexity by not feeding it with complex thoughts. I do realize that there are some places out there that you can, various techniques and methods that you can use to explore various aspects of what's rising for you in the body or the mind, the emotions or the world. And some of these techniques are very, very effective toward helping you to feel some comfort and some relief from difficult emotions, difficult experiences, and so on. So they have their use and they have their value. But if your question is about, and this question is, about the best way to engage in self-inquiry, I would just remind you that in our practice, our sadhana of self-inquiry, of self-discovery, if you will, simple is better. And so while the mind may be saying to you, I want to go deeper into this or that, I want a more complex kind of question to ask, a more complex way of accessing the I itself, I would encourage you to resist that in some way and just to keep asking the question, what is aware? What is aware of this arising in the mind? To keep asking this question, who or what am I? This makes it more and more challenging for the mind, which loves the complexity of its own nature, its own habitual nature, to slowly dissolve itself. The metaphor that Bhagavan used for the reason for this was that we are standing outside of a fort, and inside the fort are all of the thoughts. He said soldiers. All of the soldiers of the enemy are there. And the soldiers are sent out through the gate, one at a time, to come out and do battle with this recognition of who I am. And the task for us is to simply keep chopping each soldier that comes through the gate until no more soldiers come. This was the metaphor he often used. What he was referring to here is that the mind will continually throw up exceptions to the direct inquiry, who or what am I? What is aware here? And so on. But he recommended that we stay firm in the simplicity of the inquiry and understand that everything that comes is coming out of the gate of the fort, and it is our task to simply chop those thoughts one at a time as they come. And for many of us, especially in the beginning when those thoughts are coming rapid fire, to do this inquiry throughout a day or a week or a month or a year does feel as though we're not getting anywhere, as though we're missing something in some way. But understand that it is the complexity of the mind which is rising as a samskara, as a tendency, that you are actually trying to undermine or cut. So I encourage you just to stick, if you have this kind of mind that says, oh, I want to try this or I want to try that. Another analogy that's used often in inquiry and in other spiritual practices is remember that if you dig a well, you want to dig it 100 feet deep. You don't want to dig 10 wells 10 feet deep. So this is another indicator that what we're doing is we're just recognizing not that the mind is valuable, but actually that it is not valuable. So we're not interested at a certain point in engaging in this kind of complexity. The mind can answer an endless number of questions, all of them likely wrong. Because in the end, any question answered in the mind reinforces the sense that the mind, body, and world are the ultimate truth, that they are real in some way. And our task as sadhaks is to understand the impermanent and temporary nature of everything that arises in body, mind, and world, so that we can become aware and recognize directly, I am that which is here, always. And this I is even before the recognition, I exist. But Bhagavan was very clear, stay with this feeling, I exist. And if the mind wants to interfere, then use the question, but keep it simple. What is this I that wants comfort in some other form of the practice, that wants a more complete explanation, that wants to understand in some way, with the mind, what cannot be understood or comprehended by the mind? It can only be experienced directly as being, consciousness, bliss. So stick with that. And from time to time, some simpler question may come for you. But always know that if what's coming to you is a question which has many parts and pieces, that this is not going to lead you to the simplicity of knowing who you are. It's going to lead you further and further back into the mind. Because every single word in a sentence has a meaning to the mind. And so this complexity will continue to unfold. So if the form of your inquiry is 10 words long, you will need to understand and pursue and integrate every single meaning of every single word in that, and then try to find some meaning from the whole. So this is the reason for the simplicity, is to stay focused on I, and even to understand at some point that the question, who am I, is too big a question. Now you must go before it, into the empty space of your own conscious awareness. You must take that step into the emptiness of being so that you can come to see and you can encourage the flowering of being, which is beyond all thinking, feeling. In one place, the questioner, the comment is, I'm not good at creating new questions that fit either within this personality. So I would also say about this, very good. Don't be interested in what additional questions the mind can create. Lose interest in them, in fact. You know, it's often said in Advaita that the ones who can mature most quickly in self-inquiry are the ones who come with no education. And this is the reason why, because those who come with a lot of education and a lot of reading and a lot of studying and a lot of scholarly endeavor in their life have this enormous barrier to letting go of that. So if you have this kind of mind in the past where you've been very, very scholarly and you have pursued your goal of self-realization using primarily mind, it's time for you to put that down. You have this opportunity now. You have the support of Satsang, the support of the hill, the support of the masters is here. They are all here. Whoever you are drawn to, whether it's Sri Ramana, Yogi Ram Sarat Kumar, Sri Sheshadri, some satsang teacher, or some beggar that you met on the street, some sadhu you meet around the mountain. You have the opportunity here to put down this habitual nature of mind, to want to know, to want to explore, to want to understand, to want to have answers. All of that you can go back to later if you feel you need to. So I encourage you now just to leave that alone for now. Take advantage of your time here. Walk around the hill, walk around the samadhi, come to satsang, but always with the intention of leaving everything behind. Until you can leave the very last step you took behind, you can keep letting go. This can be your practice. At some moment you will realize that you can't even remember what happened during the last step you took. And then you will know you are free. And you will not be asleep. You will be here. And every single step will be a step into here now. And then you have the possibility of seeing what does not move. Even the body keeps stepping. You will rest permanently in that and as that. Be wary of the mind that says, I need to know. This is a trap. If you are here, you have enough information already. Now practice. So, who has something else?
Hi, Rishi.
Hi.
Got stuck in some kind of a witness identity, witness state for a very long time, years actually.
Can you hold it up like this a little? Yeah, I can hear it better when you hold it up.
Shall I repeat?
Yes, please.
I got stuck in this kind of state of witness for many years.
Yes.
A state where I was not very much identified to myself or to the world, but then I would stay very separated. Just
Yes.
like, not being here, not being that, but not being united. And at one point it became, I saw it outside of myself in somebody, some kind of enlightened person not being in their heart at all. And I was so horrified, it created a kind of shock in my system. And I dropped back to my heart then. I just became aware that without heart, it was just a kind of dead end. And I would start from that again. And another few years passed by, and really it became like being in my heart became much more important. It became the only thing of value, and enlightenment became quite secondary to me, something like that.
Yes.
And more recently, I moved into this kind of beautiful state where I would connect to everything around, and everything around any form would move into me as well, kind of, kind of field of...
yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah, it was very beautiful indeed.
Yeah.
And even though the field of silence, of consciousness is always there now, it has been for a long time. A few days ago, I crashed back into my mind with great strength. It's just like my mind came into the picture again, and on a very coarse, low level, really, like with many, judgment, commentaries, and nastiness, and I can stay quiet into that, and I can pull back in this field of consciousness. But somehow it feels fake. It feels like it's not genuine. Like I am creating a new state of witnessing. And all that. But in there, it's really there. My mind and my emotions are suddenly burning.
Yes.
So. What do you do with
So
that?
this mind attack has come again, even though for many years you weren't experiencing it. Can I say? Is this true? This kind of mind attack where you suddenly are back.
I had many mind attacks before.
Yes, but I'm saying it's come back again now after many years of not being there. You fell away from the witness and fell into the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you feel it's come back again. Now you are back in mind again. Did I not understand that right?
The thing is the field of consciousness is still there. I can go with my awareness, I can go there and become one with that.
Yes.
It doesn't feel genuine yet. It feels like it's a kind of trick. It's a kind of...
Yes, but what is saying that it's a trick? Can you see very clearly what is saying it's a trick? Saying don't bother with that, don't keep going back to that place of awareness because it's a trick. What is saying that?
Yeah, it's somebody in me, but the energy is that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
It's clearly one of my mind identities. I can see this.
Well, it's clearly a thought, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's clearly a thought, right? But understand that this is the way mind attacks work. They come directly where they feel that we are most vulnerable to abandon our recognition of ourself as the self itself. So this is what happens. So somehow there is still this place in you that says not to trust your knowledge of yourself as being, as consciousness, and to somehow, by the fact that this thought is there, right, that there is a problem now again, there's a problem in mind and you are back in there and you are somehow trapped, that this is an indication that something is wrong. I'm saying to you that maybe it took many years for this to arise, but this is just that tendency that you had years before, that somehow it was still lying there dormant when you fell into the heart. It sort of pushed that aside for a while, and now it is here back. But don't pick it up again. Recognize it to just be a tendency which you have seen before, so you know it is not real. It came before it went, so you already know it isn't real. So don't pick it up. Right? And now you have this ability to understand that you are that which is aware. So whatever comes into awareness needs to be okay with you. It needs to be not touched, not picked up, not resisted, and not believed. This is the most important thing about this kind of mind attack.
Yes, that's it, because I feel trapped now into duality. Either I unified with consciousness, I can do it immediately. There, I didn't lose that, but I cannot do it with my heart. Some kind of so now I am in front of this choice of remaining in my heart, and that it's genuine.
Yes.
Something that I know deeply. Yeah.
Yes. But you have to go look right now at what's happening there, because what's happening is you are describing various objects which are you can see in consciousness, whether it's the thought in the mind that's coming and causing the problem, whether it's the mind attack, whether it's the object of myself as heart, the object story of before I was here and now I am here and I want to go beyond that. All of these are objects which are in awareness for you now. Is that true? In some way. I mean, as you're talking about it, they are here in awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Whether they are troubling or not is something else. But they are here in awareness now. What knows that? Yes, like that. Look just like that. What knows that and just look like that? You see, this no answer is coming, right? Yes? No answer is there. You can't say, you can't point to something as an object and say, this knows that. You can only say, I don't really know, but I just know that I'm aware, and when I look for that consciousness which knows that the mind attack is here, or knows that I have fallen into the heart, or knows about the story of rising out of the heart, or falling back into the heart, or being the witness, right? If you look for what knows that, you see that that disappears. This is the disappearance of the I. So what I'm saying to you is you are right on the cusp of all of the tendencies that are related to the witness before, the mind attacks that came before that, the witness of the mind attacks which brought you away from them, right? Then the falling into the heart which brought you away from the witnessing state. So now you must go the last step. The last step is to keep persisting with, and what is aware of this? And stepping into that inability to know, that inability to answer, and then see that you are still aware. Something is aware, not you are aware, right? Not the one who was the mind before, not the one who was the witness, not the one who was the heart, but the one who does no longer exist. And still awareness is here. Even if I don't believe or accept any one of those objects, before I was identified with mind, then I was identified with witness, then I was identified with heart. Keep looking for that source. Each one of those is a step back toward the source. So
what remains is a fear of annihilation. No?
Fear of
annihilation?
Annihilation, yes. Who knows that? You see, the thought, this is fear of annihilation, that is the experience of the fear of annihilation. But something is before that. Something is able to say, what I see now, or what is seen now, is fear of annihilation. What sees that? Is there anyone who sees that? Or is there just awareing that this thought, which you are saying is fear of annihilation, is present? You see, yes.
It's there, but now there is this thought coming that what it's going to do with my life, how I'm going to deal with
yes,
from
yes.
that.
So right away we're thrown back into the perception of I. Yes, absolutely. What is aware of I? This is the foundation, the question, who am I? Implied in your statement is that there is an I. that this I is real and it's valid in some way, and it's related to this thought. How will I survive? Will I be annihilated? You see, those thoughts, often the I thought does not come up in association with it. You did not say, I have the fear that I will be annihilated. You simply said there is the fear that that annihilation is coming in some way, right? But implied in that is the structural belief, the underlying belief, I will be, right? So the I, even though you've come very far back, right, from mind attacks through witness, through heart, you've come very far back toward the source. Now the I becomes very subtle at this point. So subtle that if I ask you what is happening, you don't even incorporate the I, you don't even use the I. You simply say, what is here is fear of annihilation. What is here for I is fear of the annihilation. So now the mind is not even showing you how subtle this belief that there is an I is. But it is still there. So you must ask before that, what is aware of this? Whether the mind actually states the I am afraid of annihilation, or whether it says fear of annihilation is there and doesn't bring in the I because it's trying to sort of like saying, don't look over here. Look at the fear. Look at this shimmering that's going on in the body-mind. Don't look at the root, which is the I. So this is where you are right now, so just keep, what is aware of this? What is aware of this? And all of these images are tendencies in the mind. When we come this close to understanding something about the non-existence of I, beyond the felt sense I exist, when we come this close to it, everything that comes is a samskara or a tendency, and it's not to be believed. This is the soldier that's coming out of the fort. First it comes out as the mind attack, then it comes out as the witness, then it comes out as the heart, then it comes out as the fear of annihilation, then it comes out as the question, how will I live? What will I do? See, each time, but it's getting more and more subtle, so just keep going, because this is an indicator that you're coming out of these grosser realms, if you will, into the more subtle realms of I, and now you have an opportunity to really cut at the root. But not if you turn around and go back into that thought, that fear, that worry about how will I survive. The object of inquiry is not that I survive. The object of inquiry is to see that there is only awareness, there is only consciousness, there is only bliss. And all of this is that. That is the end of that fear of annihilation, is the recognition, all of this is that. Now what is there to be afraid of? There is only this consciousness. And as Nisargadatta said, you can say, and I am that, but there's not even sufficient energy in that I for that to be true. It's just the recognition there is only this. There's only this. And in this, in the suchness of this moment, I am not needed. That does not eliminate awareness from being here. This I is absolutely unnecessary. So now what is there to be afraid of? You are free. So understand that whatever thought comes now, in your own experience as you sit here and you listen, whatever comes to your mind, if anything comes to mind, after the recognition that you are already free, this is a tendency in the mind. Let it be. Don't pick it up. Don't make it real. What is real is you are already free. You are already free. If you pick this up completely through self-recognition, then everything else is unimportant. The mind can throw up all sorts of distractions and so on. It may not. If you fully understand, I am that which is free. All of this which is here is that. There is no difference. There is only one. There is only this. If this is your understanding, and it's complete.
But then there is still somebody understanding everything you say. I do understand what you say.
Yes, but this understanding is happening in the mind. This is why I'm saying, if the recognition that you are already free is real and true, then nothing else comes after that. Not even the mind picks up and says, I am understanding now that I am already free. No, this is not the way it happens. I say you are already free, and you fall into that freedom. All that you experience from then on is that freedom. Not the understanding of that freedom, not understanding freedom as a concept, but understanding that this consciousness, awareness, this bliss, which you are, this being, is the totality. There is nothing else. The understander is destroyed. Understanding can still be there, but the understander is destroyed. Experiencing in some way can still happen because the senses are still there, still operating, correct? The senses are still there, still open, still operating, so hearing, seeing, touching, smelling is still going on, and thinking can still happen. But now there is no experiencer. Now this is free. Yes? Okay. Very good. You know, it's said in Advaita teachings that one of the prerequisites for this full recognition is that we somehow become dispassionate. I really prefer the word non-attached, but both work. And that is because what's being pointed at is that we have to, if we don't have this full recognition of ourself as freedom in this moment, then we must become dispassionate in some way, or not detached, but non-attached to what is rising as experience, until we come to this moment where we can recognize that all of this is that, and that this I form of this experience is absolutely unnecessary. The body, mind, and experiences may continue to go on, but the one who is having them has died and is gone. The body is free to just float through whatever is happening in awareness. And this is not a detached state. Let me make that clear. That what I'm talking about is that we develop the discrimination to know what is real and what isn't real. We become dispassionate about all of the things that are rising and falling in consciousness, but that does not mean we end up being unaware of what is happening around us, detached in that way. It means that we allow the free flow of life to happen. There's no more recognition, no more attachment to if I succeed or fail, if I am a sage or a fool. What does it matter? It doesn't matter. So this is what happens. There's not a recognition that nothing is important. It's that, what does it matter if the world thinks something is important or doesn't think it's important? I don't believe that anymore. I'm not interested in that. It doesn't need to be that way anymore. There's just this recognition of moment by moment by moment, nowness as being, consciousness and bliss. This is everything.
Well, the surprise and the joy actually is like, it keeps going. It's happening, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It keeps going. This is the best possible description, right? Because in all of the literature there are these words like awakening, enlightenment, the self, and there's this implication in that somehow there is an experience which is static, and it's like that's permanent. But the truth of it is it just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Yeah.
But yeah, somehow there's nobody going along with it, so it's okay. And there's just the heart just keeps, what you call the heart, I'm going to say, but it is the heart of being. Just keeps opening further and further to what is all the time. And anytime there's a momentary stopping somewhere because something is happening in the environment or in relationship or in an emotion or whatever, because these are all still coming. As long as there's body-mind, there is still what body-mind does. So these still keep coming. And occasionally there can be something that says, like a resistance, sort of like stopping this expansion of the universe. But then there's this recognition that there's nobody here to stop it, so then it just keeps going. And that's the feeling that's always there, is yes, it just keeps going. The Big Bang theory of consciousness. Once you come to this moment of recognition that you are empty, that there is only the self, there is no need for any me or mine, not even a need for I in that way, in a small or selfish way, then this is when the bang comes, and this is the moment that's often pointed to. This is the removal of doubt, or it's some sort of cosmic kind of experience that's often pointed to in the lives of sages. That's the Big Bang, but from then on it's just the perpetual expansion of all that is. No ending. Nothing is static. Everything is continually moving.
And then it happens inside.
By then it has happened inside. So this perception that you just had, that's not happening before it, it's happening after it.
I didn't understand.
This perception that you just had, that you just shared with us, that says, so it just keeps going. I'm saying that perception is not coming before you have the experience of this bang and it just keeps going. It's coming after you've already had it. So even some part of you doesn't recognize that you have understood something about this now. Understand that if you can have the perception, it just keeps going with that smile on your face that you shared with me. And I say, yes, keep going. Keep going with that sense of it keeping going. And don't let anything from the past draw you back into the past.
one thing that comes up for me is the propensity to really kind of spiritually bypass in a sense, because this cutting down is basically like a reprogramming of your system, of your mind, of yourself to come to this sense of truth, but also maybe it doesn't allow you to process feelings or these things properly, so then they can come up in maybe distorted ways later on, you know? So I feel like it's a really hard line to traverse with this, and just to know when to cut and when to be with, you know, and how long to be with.
So you're right, there is a fine line, because we don't want to be going and using this process as some sort of a spiritual bypass when there are genuinely things that are that really do need to be, they're like big trees that need to be chopped down, right? Because that does come from time to time. But nonetheless, the opposite of a spiritual bypass, right, is the belief that what you are looking at is so real, you have to do something with it. So in one case, you're trying to sidestep what's in front of you, and in the other case, you're plunging so deeply into it that you cannot see through it. So both are difficult, and both are going to hinder your recognition that you are already free. So yes, there is a bit of a razor's edge that we walk on. This has always been true. This is in all of the teachings, that we have to be comfortable with walking on this razor's edge and knowing when to, you said you went to know when to go into something, but I never say go into something. I always say, if something is there and it's something from your past, because it's almost always something from your past, and it's troubling you, I don't say go into it. I just say stand with it, or stand in it. And the reason is, when I say stand in it, it pulls it out, the image pulls out of the mind where most of this activity is happening, and you get this image of you are standing still in the center of your own body, and you are just there with what is present, and you are saying, this is fear. But you're here, you see?
So you're still separate,
You're still
separate from the fear.
Yes, because you're observing it.
Yeah.
But this is going to become your ally. Because you see, if I say to you, go into it, you will dive into it and you will not remain dispassionate about the fear. You will believe you are the fear, or the fear is real, and you will have to pursue it in some way, do some process, spend a year in therapy, something, in order to deal with this enormous fear which you now have accepted is totally real. Standing in it implies more of the witnessing position that she was talking about. But the reason it's not a spiritual bypass is because you are there. Awareness is there. I am aware of fear. I am aware of terror. I am aware of sadness and grief. I am aware of this. And then that recognition is also coupled together with knowing that I am aware of this. I cannot be it, because it is an object in awareness. I am the awareness itself. So the process is more like this. It's neither a pushing away or a spiritual bypass or a plunging into. It's an accepting of what is here now. I'm seeing that yes, in this moment, this is here. And I am that which is aware of this. I am not this itself. I'm not the object itself. So there is a small degree of, it's not really a feeling of separation. It's more the ability to discriminate. This is real and that is not real. But because this is here and the body is shaking inside and there is this fear or this emotion is going on, or this grief or sadness is going on, because it is here, I want to be here as awareness with this, and I will do that. If it takes an hour, a minute, a day, a week, I am here until I see clearly that somehow, by not plunging deeply into it, by not grasping it, by not building on the story in the mind, it has of its own innate quality, it has just diminished and gone away. Now, people will say, yes, this process is very effective, but still I notice it will come back 6 months later or a year later. This same kind of grief around that event will come back again. Say, yes, this can happen, but if you really look at it, you will see that normally it comes back with a lot less intensity. And so for some people, we still have this experience of something that was very dramatic or very traumatic in our life. It can come back a number of times, but it's not that things are cycling around like this and we're not getting anywhere, we're not progressing anywhere in terms of our inquiry or our self-understanding or our self-recognition. It's more like an upward spiral. So if the event is here, each time we come back to it, we're coming back to it like this. And eventually, there's enough distance and enough putting it down has happened, but we're no longer looking back at that starting point. Now we're not looking at any of the starting points, which is what I pointed out to her. She's not looking at any of the starting points anymore. Don't look back there. Even the thoughts come in the mind. No problem. Understand. Everything keeps going. And this is an ever-expanding experience. Does that clarify it somewhat for you?
That clarifies a lot. I liked your terminology between non-attachment and detachment, and I think that's also where things lie as well.
Yeah.
Trying to discern those.
Yes. And sometimes people will say that the process of self-recognition, which I use that often with, instead of self-inquiry, they are the same for me. So this process of self-recognition, they say it is too heady, or there's too many ideas involved, it doesn't have enough heart. But there is a reason that the words are used, and so it's important to understand and to clarify the use of the words, because the words can make all the difference, like you said. Yeah. Just to move that one syllable in something, especially in the process of self-inquiry, because it is so precise, then can make all the difference in terms of allowing the expansion of self-recognition to continue. So in some way, the words which are simply conceptual can also be very important in some way. So, very good. Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva bandhanam mrityormukshiramamrita.